I've Decided world. Kim Martin here, founder of I've Decided on Zoom, our new go-to meeting space. I am here with Chuck Rice. He's the founder and owner of Brio Employee Development. And we are going to be talking about DISCFlex. I don't know if you saw the email or the information that we sent out to you. All of our I've Decided members have the opportunity to take this DISC assessment at no charge to you. And this is just a great opportunity at hand that you could take advantage of during this time that we're in this time of quarantine. And just a great opportunity to learn more about yourself, invest in your personal development, and then on top of that, Chuck is also offering a half-hour debriefing session with you to help you understand the results of this assessment. And all of this is at no charge to you. And so I invited Chuck to join me for a Zoom so that we could clarify, answer some common questions, and maybe help you understand why this is a benefit for you, and encourage you to take the assessment, to do it. I did it last week. I'm going to be having my one-on-one debriefing with Chuck next week, which I can't wait for, and just wanted to give you some encouragement. So, hey, Chuck, thanks for being here today.
Glad to be here. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, so, all right, so in talking about self-awareness, I mean, DISCFlex, that's what this is. It's about self-awareness. It's about understanding our personality types, and how we can utilize that to improve our success, our odds of success. Can you just kind of give us that overall clear picture of DISC and help us understand exactly what it is in layman terms?
Sure. These assessments have been used for years and years. The basic philosophy comes from way back in the 30s. It's validated. Fortune 500 companies use it. There's different versions out there. Some people may have taken Myers-Briggs or Insights or Colors, but essentially they come down to similar things. It's just some small features and benefits in the facilitation. So the one thing I was clear with everybody I've already done this on, they're not personality tests, because really your personality is a much bigger thing that has to be dealt with from a multifaceted thing with professionals, and nobody wants to take a test. So this is essentially just a behavioral assessment of how you lean, your preferences, your natural tendencies. Everybody can do everything. It's just kind of the way you naturally do it. And sometimes it's not as beneficial. So bottom line, to make it simple, is that you're noticing yourself and flexing and adapting, but you also notice other people and are able to kind of get where they're coming from. All relates to better communication. And in the business setting or home, it just helps you in the sense of communication, getting along, understanding. And it's just been fun doing them one-on-one. Most of the stuff I've done over the years has been in groups. The one-on-one, it's helped me tremendously, but I've had a blast doing it. I know the people that have done it, I mean, probably more than a dozen already. I think they really liked and benefited from it too. So, and there's ongoing support with it too, Kim. So once you get your DISC assessment, it's like 15, 20 pages, color, there's graphs, there's descriptors, there's great cheat sheets and resources at the end. So you can say, okay, I've taken this, talk to Chuck for a half hour, but now what? And so we provide the now what too. And you and I talked about it, and it was early on in the kind of in-home shelter, and we're like, it's maybe a good time for people to deal with stress, because, from the four kind of behavioral styles, people kind of deal with stress differently. And it's going to be like stress on steroids, and you may want to kind of check that or know what's kind of happening. And, a fair amount of our conversations have talked about how I handle stress versus somebody else. But then they evolve into other conversations about kids, family, work, which is all great. But it stemmed from people are home, they have the time. It's going to help them in the long run. And, economically, people are at home. Let's just make it free. There's a value to it. But because of I've decided, and, the helping one another, I decided, let's just do it for free for a while.
Yeah, and I do want to just be clear about that you are offering this complimentary at no charge. There's no hidden charge there. I do want to say, though, obviously, the hope is that if some of our members do this assessment, and a lot of them already have, But if more do the assessment and see the value in the coaching, the added benefit and hopefully help for Chuck as a resource if I decided and to help him share his program, just taking that back to your employer and saying, hey, I took this amazing assessment. I learned so much. It helped me while I was at home working. And I think it would be a great benefit to provide to the rest of our staff or, you know, to the leaders, the leadership team even. So obviously, we want you to share this great information, and if there's any hidden agenda, which I don't even think that would be a hidden agenda because that's not necessary. That's my words, not Chuck's words. He's truly offering this complimentary. It's not a hidden agenda, but obviously for me to say, hey, share it with other people, and that would be a great benefit for Chuck to, you know, as we come out on the other side of this quarantine, to provide some marketing and exposure for Brio and his program and leadership skills and consulting. That would be awesome.
Well, we all have, I mean, those folks that I've talked with, and, you know, we have our own business, and word of mouth is absolutely the best. And, you know, Kim and I were just talking about, you know, the millennials, which you hate to label, but that group is phenomenal, and people started to finally get it. Their number one reference point is their friends, and it just has to be on social media. So if they're looking, they're going to trust their friends, and they'll say, hey, this is good. That's all they need is like that endorsement. And, you know, if I spend some time with people, you build some trust and credibility, you're willing to go back to your HR manager and say, hey, I did this. And they're going to be familiar with DISC assessments or that, but maybe they haven't done it recently. Maybe they need to look at it through a different lens. Maybe, you know, it's not a one and done. Maybe it's a new HR person that really wants to do it, but it's worth a discussion if you'd like to. And I hope you do. Yeah,
I want to bring up this. I actually wrote this down. I wrote home with spouse and kids. So there's an added benefit to taking this assessment. I think right now, I think some people, Chuck, might be thinking, you know, I don't work outside of my home. Maybe I stay at home. I work in my home as a full-time mom, or maybe they don't feel like they're in a career where maybe they work solo in an office, right? And they don't work around a lot of people, so they don't feel like it could be a benefit to them. And I was just thinking, I think that's not true, because imagine if you understood, if you and your husband, if you did the assessment, if you're a female or if you're a male and you did the assessment, had your wife or your spouse, let's just say your spouse, do this assessment, and the two of you could then understand what behavior category you fall in. That could change the dynamics in how well you're getting along at home while we're all together and all this time. I mean, what do you think about that, Chuck?
Yeah, I've heard a couple stories about it. They're pretty good, and we're so close to the people, you know, we love and we live with. Sometimes those are the ones we miss it the most on. I had stories of moms treating their 3 kids as wanting to be drivers, enjoying everything and do everything and be involved. And then later on, you know, they get in college and like, geez, Mom, I didn't want to do all this stuff, and you pressed me into it, and I felt uncomfortable. I'm more of an introvert. That mom had no idea. Felt bad about it, but just had no idea. And, you know, somebody that's a little bit more introverted may not want the confrontation of bringing it up. But those kind of stories happen all the time. And I tell you what, if anybody has communication with anyone or has a relationship with anybody, this stuff's going to help one way or another. It's all about, you know, it's all about communication. It's all about relationships, period. You can do any strategic model and, you know, go crazy with, you know, statistics and data and graphs. At the end of the day, it's relationships. And this will help you with that. And especially when you're confined in a small house for this amount of time, you'll find out a little bit about yourself, and this should be able to help with it. And yeah, there's some fun with doing it too. I did it with my kids the other day, and, you know, they started going back and forth a little bit, and I kind of had to reel them in. But doing it with your family is kind of interesting. Now, we looked at homeschooling. There's a lot of people that homeschooling's ramping up, and it's nice to know your kids' kind of preference and how they learn, and homeschooling is kind of a different thing. And they're really looking at that as deciphering how they're going to do the teaching, you know, visual or whatever. So again, that's kind of a confined thing in the home, and homeschooling is looking at using DISC assessments one way or another with the teacher and the student, or just the whole family. So, so many ways you can use this.
Yeah, that makes sense. I could totally understand. I'm reading in one of the handouts that you had sent me along the way. It says, fortunately, although we have our strengths or preferred ways of working, we also need the ability to see the otherness in others.
Yeah.
Can you talk about, I mean, see the otherness in others?
Yeah, it's a phrase that I got from somebody years ago, and it just made a lot of sense. I mean, we're not the same, and usually when we're in a higher stress situation, we expect people to do things like we do it and to respond at the pace we want it. Somebody that comes from the world in a more conscientious, introverted way, they take information, they want to go back, and they want to digest it. So if you see that in them, then you know it kind of should be your expectation, regardless if you're a person that's like, bang, 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 let's go to the next thing, I get it, bullet points. You got to see in them that, well, that's not how they want to do it, and I have to flex on that. And it's just enough, Kim, that it's like you don't knee-jerk react, but you take a pause and then you respond. And it's kind of, it has a little bit to do with mindfulness in that, but it's a small little thing. Everybody knows that they'll say something in the heat of a moment and like, oh, I wish I had that back. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And then when you pause and you're like, well, I noticed this about them, that they need to do it this way, it's more of a response. And like everybody like to think that they notice the otherness in others, but it's so subconscious in the way we do it sometimes. So if you can get to that point and do it as often as you can, nobody's perfect, it's gonna. So I talked to somebody earlier today about, everybody knows the golden rule. Do unto others as you do yourself. I would push back on that and say, consider the platinum rule. Treat people the way they want to be treated, not necessarily how you want to be treated. And it could be different. And so I really kind of like that. And people that I've talked to about it say, wow, that does make a sense. And platinum rule's been out there for a little while. It just doesn't get the golden rule's got the big thing. Everybody kind of hears to that, but treat people as they want to be treated. Might want to consider that.
I agree, because there's definitely something about that paradigm, right? Of that paradigm of what I think somebody else must think too. And that's just simply not true. So how I want to be treated may not be how that person wants to be treated.
Exactly.
I think about the book.
And noticing that in the others, that's where that saying comes from, yeah.
I think about the book, The 5 Love Languages, and that helps you. That's exactly what you're just saying, Chuck, is that people respond even to love in different ways. Someone, you could be feeling like you're showing someone that you love them by doing all these acts of service, and you think, oh man, they just must really know how much I love them. And acts of service is not their way that they feel loved, and they don't feel loved at all, because maybe quality time or physical touch is their, it's the same thing. I think that's what you're saying. That kind of brought that to my mind.
It's exactly real. I had a corporate customer that, she wanted to talk to her boss constantly, and a busy guy, and he was down at the end of the hall, and she couldn't even get a hold of him. One day he ducked in, and he, from an HR standpoint, forget it, but he just put his hand on his shoulder and said, you looked her in the eye and said, you're doing a great job. And that's all she needed. She told her mom about it. She told me about it. She told everybody. She probably fed off that for months, but that's all she needed. And for some way, this guy figured it out, or he got it, or he slowed down enough to see it. And that's all it takes sometimes. But that's how she needed to hear it, eye to eye, and maybe a hand on his shoulder and say, you're doing a good job. And which is very, not saying a lot. Could be more specific, but boy, it's a big change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's a huge value to this in general, depending on individual assessments with the one-on-one coaching piece. In groups, and from individual to groups, it could be anywhere from $150 to $250 value, which is huge. I just so want people to take this opportunity and meet with you, Chuck, and learn from you. Can you just kind of quickly what does a half-hour debriefing look like? What are some of the conversations that you're having? I mean, not divulging, personal conversations that you've had, but just an average, like in general, what would that look like? What could someone expect?
Yeah, I try to have a structure to kind of work from, and I'm torn between doing this. Once people schedule, I'll get the assessment myself, and they'll schedule, and then what I'm doing is I'm sending their assessment, and so people are going to go through and they're going to look through it, and there's a danger in that they want to go right to their weaknesses or possibilities of change or blind spots, which that's what we do. So the less time there is between when they read it and I can talk to them is better. But they go through it, and then I'll just kind of frame it up. One question I ask in front is like, well, why did you do this? But what were you looking to get out of it? So we're going to spend a half hour. What is it that you want to get from it? Then I can kind of steer my way towards that. But I'll tell them a little bit of how it works, where the history comes from, that everybody can do them. Short explanation of the 4, and usually we fall extroverted or introverted, or we come from the head or the heart, and every version of that. And then we kind of go through how they scored, and we look at the graphs. Some people love the graphs and data, and then we take them through some individual situations where their strengths and potentials are laid out, and it's like, okay, tell me about that. Was there a time when you saw something like this happen? And everybody's like, oh yeah, this happened the other day, blah, 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 blah. And so it makes it current to them, relevant and current to them. That's what I try to do. And then at the end, we spend a little time on go through the cheat sheets and use this here. And then I'll kind of send them with like, pick 1 or 2 things maximum and kind of look and work on them and share it with your spouse, share it with your kids, share it with your whoever you do, but don't set your expectations that you're going to change all this overnight. Small wins, and then they'll ask some questions, and I'm still open to call me back whenever, email me, whatever. But it's 35 minutes, 40. It just goes like that, and I'm really grateful that people open up and share a little bit, because that's what makes it work, And some people could be very, very introverted and not want to talk about anything, and that's fine. We kind of go through it, and they'll go back and digest it. And that's how they operate. And they'll call me a day or 2 later, and that's fine. Other people, boom, 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 they want to rip right through it, and that's fine too. That's me noticing how they want to kind of go through it. But I know beforehand. I have their assessment, so I read it, and I'm like, well, I kind of know how this is going to go, and I try to adapt it from the front end.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, you kind of know their personalities.
Well, it's not personality. It's more of the
their behavior, right?
Yeah, it's really easy to kind of slip into
response.
that. If you go on the internet stuff, they all want to call personality tests, and it's kind of got that misnomer to it, but it's not really that. Just everybody can shift and change with this, and we all can do them. Personalities don't necessarily change too much. You don't make
that makes sense. This is behavior. I mean, this is a behavioral assessment, because behavioral, this is what I always say. I always say when something is a behavior, that's good news, because that means you can learn it and you can apply it, right? So, you can learn you can your personality tendencies can lean towards one thing, but you can manage it and be intentional about directing it in another area. And I think for me, my personality, and anyone who knows me would probably automatically know I'm a DI. And you'll learn what that is if you take the assessment. You'll talk to Chuck. But knowing that I'm a DI doesn't mean that I always have to behave like a DI. Right. I can intentionally work towards switching that behavior a little bit. And I think that's where it becomes behavioral. And that's the important factor, right?
No, exactly right. Just notice it and know that you can. And I don't want you to the deal, but so if you score very high in one and low in the other, the distance between those, all that means is it may take you just a little bit more effort to shift, and it may feel a little awkward. Some people are, pretty evenly, and they can go from one to the other without awkwardness, and they're a little bit more skilled at it, and that's great. But these behaviors, so often, they're so automatic pilot, and they're so subconscious, and they happen so quick that we don't even know.
Yeah.
And this kind of helps you to see that, or other people see it and are able to hold you accountable and coach you through it. Best thing is somebody kind of understands this, they share, they hold you accountable, and they kind of work with you on it. That's ideal. And, a lot of happens with a boss and an individual and a coach, so that's where you can get some help on this.
Yeah. And it really only takes about 15, 20 minutes to do the assessment.
Oh, yeah.
I think if I remember, it took me like 15 or 20 minutes maximum.
Tops. Yeah. And if you're coming from a D, maybe 10 or, maybe less.
Yeah. pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think I took mine in like 10 minutes, 10 minutes top. So it's like,
Yeah,
next.
I'm sure Melissa probably took a little longer than that. Melissa, I know her very well, so she probably had to read every little detail and make sure, you know, she had right. That's a different person. Yeah. I thought this was. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, thank God we have that. I mean, I don't want my pharmacist or cardiac surgeon or rocket scientist kind of rushing through stuff, right? I mean, they tend to have a little bit more deliberate and logic and slow and all that. So, you know, some of these fit certain jobs over others. So, yeah.
Yeah, true. That's true. We don't want our brain surgeons to rush through anything, do we?
Right.
Take your time, put it all back together correctly. I just thought I'd end reading a few of the responses that we've gotten from some of our community members and business members who have taken this free assessment that you're providing to everyone. It says, I don't know, I don't have their names in front of me, I'm sorry, so I don't know exactly who said it, but they did say it. You will be blessed if you spend a few minutes taking the DISC assessment. Chuck gives us great insight as we navigate this new season in our lives. So I thought that was a really great feedback. Another says, I highly suggest using this resource, no matter what career field or years of experience you have. Walking through my DISC assessment results with Chuck was incredibly insightful and helped me become more self-aware in all aspects of life. That was really good. One more. This DISC assessment tool accurately identified motivators and stressors I experience at work and in life. I enjoyed the follow-up conversation with Chuck. He walked me through what the assessment results meant and how I can utilize this information to be more successful. So I thought those were some really great positive comments from some of our members, Chuck, who've already taken the assessment. So obviously,
I appreciate it. That's what makes it worth it for me. I mean, I learned from them, and it's what I was meant to do. It's passion. I'm just one of the lucky guys that I kind of get to do what I want. So, yeah, I appreciate those comments. They're very, very nice and heartfelt.
Awesome. Well, we really appreciate you being a resource for I've Decided, and appreciate the relationship that we've been growing over the last, I don't know, it's been over a year now, I think, probably well over a year. And I know that we're going to work together too going forward with doing our success partner and incorporating the DISC into that somehow, some way. So we're going to be working on that. So that's to come. Just drop a little hint there to everybody, but we won't give all those details away. So just, you know, you guys, I want you to utilize the benefits that are a part of your I've Decided membership. And the exclusive discounts that you get as a part of your membership is it's a big deal. And it really adds value to you being a part of this family, to being a part of this community. And Chuck has so graciously and generously provided us this tool, this assessment as a freebie right now. It's not always going to be complimentary. This is just something that he's chosen to do to help people out during the quarantine and this time that we're kind of stuck at home to provide a value for you. So just wanted to encourage you to take advantage of doing this free assessment and meeting with Chuck and doing a little introduction so you could see who you would be meeting with. Because, you know, Chuck, some people, maybe they're like, hey, who's Chuck? I don't even know. If I want to meet with this guy.
Right. I'm sure there's plenty, yeah.
Yeah, well, now that they see you and know you, I can't imagine that they would not want to take opportunity to do that. So thank you for spending this time sharing. Is there anything else, any final comments that you'd like to add, or you feel like we kind of covered everything for everyone?
No, I'm grateful to have the vehicle, but I've decided to kind of work this through because, you know, the folks that you know, your recruiter have in there, they're a special type of person, and it really, that's why it fits this. So I think you're going to repost the how to go about. It's pretty easy to, you know, get the link and set it up with me. But if you send that back out, we'll get you scheduled, and hope you take advantage of it, and look forward to talking to more people.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll post that for sure. Thanks, Chuck.
Thank you. Bye-bye.